Welcome to Computers on Screen, where we look at depictions of computer stuff in film, TV, anywhere really. Today we're taking a look at Jurassic Park, a 1993 Spielberg masterpiece.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
The movie has a couple of surprisingly diverse computery scenes we're going to check out. Not only is this movie the source of countless memes
Dodson! Dodson! We've got Dodson here!
that cement its cultural relevance,
Nobody cares.
it absolutely holds up. The effects, the story, the dialogue, all of it. It's even better than I remember.
Oh, there it is.
The computer scenes in the movie revolve around the networked control systems developed by two computer engineers. Ray Arnold, played by Samuel L. Jackson,
Item 151 on today's glitch list. We have all the problems of a major theme park and a major zoo, and computers aren't even on their feet yet.
and Dennis Nedry, played by Wayne Knight.
Headlights.
Yeah, I'll debug the tour program when they get back, okay? Okay?
Nedry, spoilers, feels he is underpaid, despite stating explicitly that he bid his own salary so he has no one to blame but himself, and sabotages the computer system in some corporate espionage. We get a surprising amount of detail about the systems and their nature.
You can run this whole park from this room with minimal staff for up to 3 days. You think that kind of automation is easy? Or cheap? You know anybody who can network 8 connection machines and debug 2 million lines of code for what I bid for this job? Because if you can, I'd love to see him try.
Nedry mentions connection machines, which, despite sounding like bland technobabble, actually was a real brand of supercomputers available at the time, so this goes in the plus column. In fact, if you look at the scene in question, the set actually includes props that looks like actual connection machines. Pretty impressive.
Fingers?
I'm totally unappreciated in my time.
Connection machines were designed with red LEDs on the front of the case, each one linked to an individual processor, so the programmers could easily check how many of the processors were working at a given time. Ideally, all the LEDs would be solid red for maximum efficiency, but of course, it's more cyber cool to have all the LEDs blinking in a mysterious, sciencey way, so the company eventually allowed users to assign a different setting for the LEDs so it would look cooler. That's real. That really happened. That's not just for the movie.
All the systems will then come back on their original startup mode.
He mentions networking connection machines specifically, implying that it's difficult. I bet it would take work and expertise, but the Ethernet standard existed at the time, and connection machines were built with an Ethernet interface that fed directly into the control bus, so I bet you really only had to plug them into each other. Further still, Layer 2 switches existed at the time too. Nedry might have just bought a switch, plugged it in, plugged the CMs into it, and called it done. That feels very Nedry to me.
You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
While we're at it, let's get a sense of those connection machines. They were supercomputers built for massive computations. Hammond needs them to crunch numbers on genetic data, which is enormous by 1993 standards. Computers usually store decimal numbers in a family of formats called floating point, and doing math on floating point numbers takes more computation than the same math done on whole numbers, so the number of floating point operations that a machine can do per second, called flops, is a good metric to judge performance. The CM version 5 could be built with a scalable number of processors, up to around 16,000. A max capacity CM5 would have cost hundreds of millions of dollars at the time, easily over $1 billion in 2022 money, and was about the size of a third of a football field. Contemporary research reports that a CM5 at max capacity was capable of around 1 teraflops, meaning it could do 1 trillion floating point operations per second. For comparison, NVIDIA just released the 4090 series of graphics processing units, the most performant of which costs $1,600 and fits in a shoebox. It delivers about the same performance on high-precision floating point numbers and is about 100 times faster with lower precision numbers. A world-class supercomputer, and all you have to do is plug it in. It might actually melt some parts of your computer, though. They're working on that. Not only the hardware, either. Genetics data is easier to analyze than ever. Tools like Atom, a software library built on the distributed processing software tool Spark, is available for free, and isn't even that hard to deploy on a cluster in the cloud.
Thinking machine supercomputers and gene sequencers break down the strand in minutes. And virtual reality displays show our geneticists...
Between CRISPR making genome sampling reliable, public clouds making storage and compute cheap and scalable, and tools like Spark and Atom making distributed gene processing algorithms a snap, Hammond's dream project could be done today no problem.
We can make a baby dinosaur.
After Nedry makes his move, Arnold reviews the system logs to see what he's done.
This scar.
Key check space minus O, key checks off, safety space minus O. He's turning the safety systems off. He doesn't want anybody to see what he's about to do.
Arnold is reading off command line entries. This is quite real. Unix-like systems expect conventions where programs accept arguments altering their behavior that start with a minus, or dash if you prefer. grep, for example, is a Unix tool that searches text for a pattern and returns the matches it finds, so you might type grep potato shoppinglist.txt.
I hate this hacker crap!
If you wanted it to also return the line numbers of each of the places it finds the pattern you give it, you'd pass it the -n argument. Arnold is saying that Nedry ran the commands
keycheck space -O, keychecks off, safety space -O.
which feels real enough to buy. Of course, we don't know what the -O option does, but it fits standard programming conventions. Arnold says that to find what Nedry did, you'd have to go through 2 million lines of code one by one, but I don't buy it.
Now, look at this next entry. It's the kicker. White rabbit object. Whatever it did it all. But with the keychecks off, the computer didn't file the keystrokes, so the only way to find them now is to go through the computer's lines of code one by one.
How many lines of code are there?
About 2 million.
2 million.
Yeah.
First of all, he knows the name of the script Nedry ran, White Rabbit Object. We can simulate Arnold's task of finding this in 2 million lines of code with a little simulation. We fill a text file with 2 million lines of randomly chosen words, stick White Rabbit Object in there somewhere, run grep, which has been around since the 70s, Arnold and Nedry would both definitely be familiar with it, over 2 million lines of code and see how long it takes to find the file name. It's almost instantaneous. In fact, let's run it a bunch of times and see what the average runtime is. Note that the compute resources this is running on is many, many times faster than the hardware Arnold is working with, but still, I strongly doubt it'd be more than a few orders of magnitude longer than what we find here. We're talking a few seconds max. It is possible that Nedry's script deletes itself. It's possible since a program is run by loading the program from the hard drive into memory and then running the copy in memory, so you can have a program delete itself from the hard drive. If that's the case though, the script won't be in any of the 2 million lines of code anyway. We can see that the pair use some kind of version control system to track code. A modern example is Git, but Nedry wouldn't be dumb enough to commit his sabotage code to the repository where it could be recovered from a previous commit. If Nedry wrote a script to delete itself and didn't commit it to the version control system, I'd say Arnold is probably SOL. Probably the most famous computer scene in the movie is this one.
It's a Unix system. I know this.
This is the exact sort of system visualization that directors invent because actual computer systems are boring to look at. Incredibly, this is not that. Lex is using Fusion, a system for file navigation sold by Silicon Graphics Incorporated in decades past. It's real. And the file system represented by what you see on the screen feels real. You've got the standard Unix directory structure and everything. It feels unbelievable that Lex would know how to operate the tools used to manage the park, especially given the completely insane way she holds the mouse. But if she can, it's a testament to the self-documenting nature of the code and structure that Arnold and Nedry built into their design. Say what you will about Nedry, he's a solid engineer. So that wraps up Jurassic Park. Overall, I'd say pretty good. I buy it. Nothing in the movie would be so jarringly inaccurate that it would break my immersion watching it. Honestly, even if it did, the movie's so good that I wouldn't even care. If you have a scene in media involving computers in some way that you want to take a look at, let me know in the comments.
Hold on to your butts.